Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ryder Virtual Theater, temporary home of your exceptional Caesar Rodney High School stage crew and thespians. Sit back and relax from the safety and comfort of your home, and thank you for being our guests tonight.
The smell.
Someone cooking.
Dad.
Me.
Papa.
Mom.
Grandma.
You can almost taste it.
The spices in the air.
It warms your body.
Fills your soul.
With memory.
And meaning.
Nightlack. Matzo ball soup.
Beef stew.
Gumbo, the spicier the better.
Chicken noodle soup.
Tortilla soup on a cold winter day.
Nightlack. I didn't know what she was talking about at first, but then she said matzo ball. Matzo ball soup. Easy. I've been making matzo ball soup for years with my mom. I moved in to help, filling up a pot with water and setting it on the stove. As we worked, she asked me, Esther, do you know what matzo represents? Of course I did. After all, she and my grandmother had told me I'd like every Passover Seder.
A story.
Home.
Overcoming.
Chasing dreams.
Sure I do, I said. Matzah represents the unleavened bread the Jews ate while fleeing Egypt. A boring textbook answer, and she knew it. There was a long pause between us, filled with the sounds of her bowl scraping all the matzah meal, eggs, and broth and seasoning together. When she spoke again, the first words out of her mouth were, Esther, you're old enough. That phrase always brought a lump to my throat. You see, a story always followed that phrase. A story from before I was born. Before she was born.
Remembering.
Family.
Trials.
And tribulations.
I was little when my great-grandmother died. One of the things I remember about my great-grandmother, my Oma, were the tattooed numbers on her arm. I just learned how to read and count numbers in my kindergarten class, and I would sit in the chair next to her and read the numbers back to her, proud I could count. I didn't know what the numbers meant until after she had died, when my mother and my grandmother told me the stories. Ghettos, close calls, stolen food, deportation, and a place of nightmares called Auschwitz, shown in Hebrew, most known as the Holocaust. But this story, the matzah story, it's a different story from the others.
Story.
Home.
Overcoming.
Chasing dreams.
After the war, my Oma ended up in a displaced persons camp. She met my great-grandfather there, and from there they tried to get a relative in the United States to sponsor them so they can move there. At the camp there was so little food and no way to cook your own meals. By the time my Oma made it to New York, it had been 5 years since she had cooked her own meal on her own stove. The kosher grocery store there in that little apartment had everything she needed, and when my great-grandfather got home from a long day looking for work, she served him up a piping hot bowl of matzo ball soup. He would laugh and tell her, it isn't Passover, but yes, it was their Passover. This bowl represents everything my family overcame and the freedom they found on the other side.
Remembering.
Family.
Trials.
Tribulations.
Passover.
Freedom.
Freedom.
My brother had just gone off to college. I was so excited I'd have the run of the place. Years ago, my parents told me I could have his big basement bedroom when he moved out. Bedroom? That thing was practically an apartment. It had its own bathroom and kitchen and everything. Perfect. But then my parents broke the news.
The storm.
Family.
Age.
Memory.
Pop-up was moving in now. Don't get me wrong. I love my grandfather, but him moving in? I mean, he's fine to visit on the weekends, but... And then more news. Pop-up wasn't just getting old and forgetful. He had Alzheimer's for a while. It's just my parents didn't want me to worry, so they didn't tell me. Papa couldn't live on his own, and a care home was way too expensive, so he'd be living in the basement. My basement. I tried not to resent it, but it was hard. I mean, it's not like Pop needed all that space to have friends over and hang out. It's not like he had all the stuff that he had to put downstairs. And it's not like he needed the big TV to watch movies. Yeah, I know, I was a real jerk about it. But about a week after he moved in, I realized he didn't really know who I was. He called me my dad's name a couple of times. Then my uncle's name. Mom told me not to correct him, so I nodded and smiled.
Forgetting.
Connection.
Disappointment.
Family.
One day, I came home from school and I smelled something cooking down in the basement. I was worried, so I crept down there to see what Pop-Up was up to, and I found him stirring a large pot of stew. "Come in, Bradley," he said. That's my uncle's name. "I've been working on this beef stew all day. It's your favorite. Good thing to break the chill from outside." It was the middle of summer, but before I could say anything, Pop-Up had already pulled me a big ladle full and set it on the table, slipping a spoon inside the cup. "Come join me. Is that Miss Culpepper still giving you trouble? Did you ask Lisa Moulton to the dance yet?" I didn't know who these people were, but I came in and sat down and pretended I did. I made up a story, and then I told him about me, about my life. He listened with understanding and nods, and we sat there for an hour just eating soup. He called me Bradley the entire time.
Forgetting.
Family.
Change.
Memory.
Mom was a bit worried when she came home and found that Pop-Up had raided the pantry to make beef stew, but he didn't hurt himself and the stew was made perfectly and delicious. The doctor said it's not unusual for Alzheimer's patients to retain some long-term memories like music, recipes, childhood friends. It's strange what the disease takes and what it decides to leave behind. So my mom decided to foster the memory, letting Pop-Up make stew anytime he wanted as long as somebody was there to supervise. So I volunteered, and he taught me the recipe during our long talks in the basement. I'd tell him about my life. He'd call me Bradley. He'd still ask about my Uncle Bradley's life, as if it's him still coming home from school every day. My uncle died in a motorcycle accident when he was 21. I never even knew him. My dad tells me that Pop-Up used to have a big pot of stew going for them when they came home from school just about every day during the winter months.
Forgetting.
Connection.
Dreams.
Loss.
Pop-Up can't make the stew anymore now that he's in his final stages of, well, he is at a nursing home in hospice care. I still make the beef stew on my own Saturdays in the basement. That's when we go to visit him. I have to bring him a big cup. "Thanks, Bradley," he says. "How's basketball going? Are you playing point guard yet?" Bradley never played basketball, but I do.
Memory.
Family.
Connection.
Love.
Remembering.
Change.
Change.
I don't remember much in my parents. It's hard for them to talk about. I was little. My dad says he carried me up to an attic. Then he and my uncle grabbed an axe and hammer and punched a hole so we can climb onto the top of the house. And somewhere in the back of my mind, the wind is raging and storm. Someone crying, screaming.
Trials.
And tribulations.
Then comes the Coast Guard helicopter shelters for weeks. We lost everything but ourselves, and we were still lucky. We had made it out. A bus eventually carried me, my sisters, and my grandma to an aunt's house outside of Chicago. I grew up in a crowded house while my dad tried to get us a fresh start back on the Gulf Coast, but we waited to go home. Grandma, she would have let us forget. She made gumbo every week, filling the house with the sweet smell of spices.
Smell.
Someone cooking.
You could almost taste the air. This is who you are, she tell us. Gumbo is in your soul. It is your soul.
Chicken.
Sausage.
And shrimp. She made it every way you can imagine over time. Gumbo was in my soul. Gumbo was family. And more importantly, it was home.
Family.
Connection.
Love.
Grandma passed away about a year before we were able to finally go home. And in all that time, my mom just couldn't make gumbo. It was too much for her. It probably would have been too much for me too. I was 10. My mom and sisters and I loaded up a car and drove back to a Gulf Coast to a town I didn't remember. Home was foreign, frightening, a place of destruction and death.
Trials.
And tribulations.
A thunderstorm was rolling in as we drove into town, and the first drop of summer rain on the windshield. We pulled up into the small house my dad rented. A small house just big enough for a family. There were lots of hugs, and as we unloaded the bags, I ran up to the door, and when I opened it,
The smell.
Someone cooking.
I was overwhelmed by the smell of the sweet spices filling the whole house. A steaming pot of gumbo rested on the stove. I let the scent, and as I inhaled, I knew it was home.
Memory.
Family.
Love.
Dream.
Dreams.
Dreams.
A lot of people have these meals that they remember really well.
Night lag.
Beef stew.
Gumbo.
Tortilla soup.
Hot roast, fried chicken, spaghetti and meatballs. Maybe their mom or their grandmother made it for them. Or maybe it was a family meal during the holidays. Well, that's okay and all. But my story, my meal, it's a little different than everyone else's.
Different.
Or
Trials.
And tribulations.
My mom always had to get creative with food. She had 2 jobs, one during the day and one at night, just to make ends meet for 5 kids, which doesn't exactly lend to the grandest of meals. But she always manages to make it sound fun. We had breakfast for dinner for a whole week once. Pancakes, eggs, cereal. She made it sound exciting. We didn't know what was to save money. We were being adventurous, eating beanie weenies or hot dogs with mustard for a meal. Hot dogs without the buns, of course, because that would cost more. Whew. I was a lot older before I realized we were, as my school put it, economically disadvantaged.
economically disadvantaged.
When I got older, my mom put me in charge of dinner so that she can be home with us every day and go to school at night. You know those big wanted for my birthday and told me I could spend $10 on whatever I wanted? I looked up a chicken noodle soup recipe and planned my budget right down to the penny.
Chicken.
Onions.
Carrots.
Noodles.
Coupon.
Discounts.
Somehow, we made it work. I made a whole pot of chicken soup, and it's more than ever than what came from all those cans. And for my birthday, we stuffed ourselves with homemade chicken noodle soup.
Full.
Stuffed.
Rich.
Happy.
I made that soup a bunch for my family over the years, and I can make it for a cheaper price than from the cans that you buy at the store. My mom asked me once why I like making it so much and why it means so much to me. Well, for me, it just goes to show that you can get by on something simple like canned soup, but you can also make it better yourself, and in the process, make yourself better.
Better.
Salvation.
Redemption.
Growth.
My mom graduated with her bachelor's degree last year. She's got a great job now, and she's home with us every night. We learned how to make a bunch of homemade meals, but I still make chicken noodle soup every Friday.
Happy.
Salvation.
Rich.
Chances.
Redemption.
Risk.
Risk.
My dad bought a food truck for $10,000, his life savings. Hey-ho, he said, sometimes you have to take risks. He always dreamed of owning a restaurant, but it'd be a lifetime before he could save up for one. It'd taken half of a lifetime just to scrape enough together for an old food truck.
Dreams.
Chances.
Family.
Goals.
My uncle did the paint job at his body shop, and the mechanic fixed up the engine. And Dad and I, well, we got that old burner lit, and with my sister's help, we went to a little Mexican marketplace and chocked her full of all the ingredients we would need to make the best tacos imaginable. Linguina tacos. Dad was so proud.
Chasing dreams.
Overcoming.
Our first set up was a food truck spot near downtown. It was like a mobile food court. Businessmen in suits and women in high heels were just getting off on their lunch break. Problem was we weren't the only tacos in town. There was another food truck that had been there longer. This guy's customers were regular and very loyal, and they weren't very happy to see us. Do you know how many tacos we sold that day? 5. 5 tacos to the entire lunch rush. Day nada.
Trials.
And tribulations.
The second day, we set a restaurant just a little outside of downtown. We were perfectly positioned to get all the traffic going in and out of the courthouse. But that also meant we were perfectly positioned to get noticed by the police. Ouch. Apparently, we needed a permit. Dad didn't know. No tacos sold and a $200 fine.
Chasing dreams.
Poor.
We tried parking more parking lots. Dad made enough through the summer and fall to stay afloat. But winter. Food trucks aren't exactly the most popular when it's freezing outside. And it was just getting bitterly cold when Dad got a permit to work at a city festival. But so did a bunch of other food trucks, and we didn't get the best spot. I had just gone outside to put on my gloves and blow into my hands to find some warmth when Dad threw a pot on the stove and began throwing things in it.
Chicken stock.
Onions.
Chilies.
Corn.
It seemed like he threw in a bit of everything and then finished it off with every spice in the truck. I was too cold to ask him what he was doing. He splashed the soup into a cup, a styrofoam cup, sprinkled on some sliced avocado and cheese, and handed it to me with a spoon. I slurped down a big spoonful. That tortilla soup was like liquid heaven on a cold day.
Heaven.
Trials.
And tribulations.
Overcoming.
A moment later, a pleasant face peeked into the truck's window. "Excuse me," she said as she spied my cup of soup. "What's that? I think I'll have some of that." Dad thought quick. What was today's special? Tortilla soup. $5 for a cup, $7.50 for the larger size. He showed her the two styrofoam cup sizes we usually use for drinks. She ordered a large. My dad made her a cup, and off she went. 2 minutes later, another person asked for the special. Dad told me to go outside, put it on the chalkboard with the prices. Then he put another pot on the stove.
Dreams.
Chances.
Family.
goals.
For the next 3 hours, we didn't sell a single taco, but we sold over 200 cups of soup. Tortilla soup got us through the winter, and by the time summer came back around, Dad had figured out how to sell tacos too. I love this soup. When I eat it, I think of how it changed my family's life. When I eat it, I know sometimes risks are worth it when you're chasing a dream.
Dreams.
Chasing dreams.
Chances.
Overcoming.
Happy
Happy
and
endings.
beef stew.
Gumbo, the spicier the better.
Chicken noodle.
Tortilla soup on a cold winter day.
Nine black. Matzo ball soup.
The smell.
Someone cooking.
Dad.
Me.
Pop up.
Mom.
Grandma.
You can almost taste it.
The spices in the air.
It warms your body.
Fills your soul.
With memories.
And
And